Over the last couple of years, you've probably heard a lot about the Joint Readiness Training Center at Fort Chaffee, but you may not know the whole story.
That's right. JRTC is only a test by the Army. This fall, the Army will decide where to locate JRTC permanently. That decision will affect you and your community. Over the next 3 nights, we'll look at how the Joint Readiness Training Center has already made its mark on western Arkansas. We'll find out what we have to lose if we lose the training center, and we'll look into the future to see how we can all prosper if the Army chooses Fort Chaffee as the permanent base for JRTC. These soldiers are the backbone of the Army. They're the light infantry, and they're here in Arkansas to prepare for battle.
The soldiers training here are, as far as the Army, our nation's front line of defense. The ones training here are the first ones that will see combat. They're the ones that can be there this time tomorrow. And when that decision's made to send them there, there's no time to train. That training's got to have been done, and they've got to be ready. And they're getting ready by coming to train here. So this area of Arkansas is providing the best training that we can give these soldiers to survive.
Thousands of soldiers experience the reality of war here, learning lessons that are too late to learn when the real bullets are flying. This squad leader led his men into an ambush.
When it did happen and I did die, my subordinates got their training there because one of them had to take charge and get what was left of the squad out of there, and then come back and get us out. But I learned from that. I mean, that's what we're here for.
And that's what Joint Readiness Training is all about. The Army knows JRTC is the best way to train its soldiers. Now it has to decide where that training should take place. In its 2-year test period, the JRTC has meant jobs for 500 people. 300 of those jobs went to civilians right here in western Arkansas.
48%, or just about half of Chaffee's operating budget and JRTC's operating budget goes to pay local civilian salaries, the people who are employed out here. So there's a tremendous economic impact that's going right back into the community.
JRTC funneled $50 million through our area in just 2 years. So what happens if Fort Chaffee loses the Joint Readiness Training Center?
It's a very simple equation. We bring with us a considerable economic package, and if we leave, that economic package goes with us.
Losing JRTC to another Army post will mean hundreds of lost jobs and millions of lost dollars. But if the training center is permanently assigned to Fort Chaffee, all parts of western Arkansas will feel its positive effects. And that makes the fight for JRTC a battle worth winning. Now, right now, an Army team is touring all the different bases to determine which site is best for the JRTC. Tomorrow, we'll look at the immediate benefits that we'll see if Fort Chaffee is chosen.
Good job, Carol. If people want it, or even if they don't want it to stay, can they voice their opinion somewhere?
They should write their congressman and let them know, because those are the people who will have the final influence. And we'll look at more of that on Friday when Mark Natale does the third part.
All right.
Very interesting.
In a few months, the United States Army will make a decision that could affect you and your community.
The Army will choose a permanent site for the Joint Readiness Training Center. JRTC already makes its home at Fort Chaffee, but that could only be temporary. Tonight, in the second part of our Team 5 report, Kimberly Marsh tells us why the battle for JRTC is a battle worth winning.
Well, if Fort Chaffee does get to keep JRTC, the post will get a big boost from the U.S. Army. That boost comes in the form of at least $40 million. And the soldiers at Chaffee say $40 million can go a long way right away.
These soldiers are fighting an imaginary war against an imaginary enemy in an imaginary country. It's part of their training. But not far away is reality, an Army post in need of change.
The post right now then is still largely in its 1941, 1942 vintage. Here some 45 years or so down the road, it's not considered even adequate. And so there would have to be some serious changes made to the facilities here on Fort Chaffee. The only way those changes can be made is through an influx of money.
So Fort Chaffee will be the first to reap the rewards, but the post won't be the only winner.
All that money will eventually funnel through to the neighboring communities. And while Fort Smith can stand on its own with or without Army money, smaller towns could use it.
Welcome to Lavaca. This Sebastian County town is one of Chaffee's closest neighbors, and some JRTC families could call it home.
If Chaffee is selected as the home of JRTC, we could expect those people will be moving up here. So there's an additional 300 families there.
And these 300 families will have children in school and do business in town. But JRTC will also meet another community need: jobs.
Just about half of Chaffee's operating budget and JRTC's operating budget goes to pay local civilian salaries, you know, the people who are employed out here. So there's a tremendous economic impact that's going right back into the community.
So this is why Fort Chaffee's neighboring communities would share in a JRTC victory. It's a battle area leaders don't want to lose.
I really feel that if it would help, the small towns should get together and try to help get this thing.
But if JRTC goes, the jobs, the people, and the money will all go with it. And tomorrow night, Mark Natale will show us how JRTC could affect us in the long run and how you can help keep it here.
Right now, they use a lot of community services that aren't on the post. Now, if it's a permanent base, do you think they'll change that?
Well, not really. Fort Chaffee would like to keep using what's out there in the community. They don't have any urgent need to build a commissary, let's say, or reopen a medical facility. They used to have one. But even if they do, they are still going to be a community need, such as the Army doesn't bake its own bread anymore, so they'll have to get that out in the community wholesale or whatever.
So the money will still go in.
Right. You bet.
Thanks, Kimberly.
Western Arkansas is hoping the Army says yes to making Fort Chaffee the permanent home of the Joint Readiness Training Center.
Not only would the move benefit Chaffee, it could also bring in millions of dollars to our area. Tonight, in the last of our Team 5 report, Mark Natale looks at what the long-term effects of the JRTC could mean to you. Mark.
Well, Carol, before we get on to our report tonight, we'd like to tell the folks to get a piece of paper and pencil handy to take down some addresses concerning the JRTC. Now, ever since light forces have been training at Fort Chaffee, local government and business leaders have had their fingers crossed. They want the JRTC to have a new home at Chaffee. The reason, a better future. For the last couple of years, the Army has been getting a taste of what Fort Chaffee has to offer. And in several months, Chaffee will find out if it has what it takes. The decision on whether or not the JRTC will make Fort Chaffee its permanent home will come this fall. Now, if the Army says yes, the local economy will certainly get a boost. Just how much of a boost? Well, at this point, that's not really known. But the potential is there.
You're looking at a $40 million budget. And according to national statistics, those figures turn over 2.5 times in your community. So you're looking at a $100 million impact.
Not just looking at the economic impact, but the type of people that are in the Army. They're quality people. I mean, they're guys who are going to go out there and accomplish things. You know, they're achievers, not just in the Army, but in the communities as well.
And just about all aspects of the community will feel the effect. The Fort Smith Board of Realtors says it could see a boom in home sales. Nearby school districts like Lavaca could also benefit. Potential employees and soldiers at Chaffee could have children, and those kids need to go to school. For each student, the government will pay school districts extra money.
There would be demands on the system for education, demands on the system for jobs, and other things to support the military community also. So it's a partnership that would have to be furthered in order to make sure that it would be able to come together.
The benefit to the community is the money. That's the bottom line, the bottom dollar.
But there's another side to that line. The Army could say no. No to Chaffee, and no to the millions of dollars that could be pumped into Western Arkansas. But the public could play a part in that decision just by writing their lawmakers. You may write Congressman John Paul Hammerschmidt at 2207 Rayburn House Office Building, United States House of Representatives, Washington, D.C., 20515. Or Senators Dale Bumpers and David Pryor at United States Senate, Washington, D.C., 205 888-888-1010. Not only do U.S. lawmakers have an impact on Army decisions, but so do state legislators. So if you want the JRTC at Fort Chaffee, or if you don't want it at Fort Chaffee, drop them a line. Let them know how you feel.
A lot of civilians, and now I have that Army terminology, a lot of civilians use Fort Chaffee for hunting. How will this affect them?
Well, obviously, if they bring in more troops there, it's going to limit the areas when the troops are there. But at this point, as far as the full impact it'll have and how it'll affect hunting in other areas, they won't know until a decision is actually made this fall.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Kevin.